Okay, back at her again. Get all the hardware stripped off. I put one coat of clear dope. I'm going with Brodaks stuff, and I'm going to use their method, their products, being it is Brodak airplane, because I've never used their stuff before. In the old days we used SIG, which I got lots of, and that stuff worked really good. So I gave her a coat of dope. I used a 1-inch wide brush to get it on there. The first coat, she's gonna suck it up good. Should mix it to about 50-50 with thinner. They say 70-30, but that's pretty thin. So I mixed her about 50-50 within reason. You don't want it really runny, so it's just pouring off the brush. But this stuff was pretty thick, so I went 50-50 on it. It'll suck it in good, and it'll suck it in deep if it's nice and thin. And then you'll notice once it's dry, you get a fuzzy airplane. So you sand it off. I tried, okay, this foam sanding block worked good for getting my edges round and stuff. I tried it as a fuzz remover. Didn't work very good. It's a little bit coarse. These little corners are sharp. So went back to my good old 400 sandpaper, nice and loose, nice and soft. You got two enemies when you're doing your finish sanding on a model. You get soft wood, your fingernails. It's the first thing you watch. You be sanding something, bang, bang, bang. Next thing you know, you get all these little dings like I did here. It's been a while since I actually finished a model, especially using this old school method of dope. And your other enemy, if you're using a sanding rail, it's all them sharp edges. I tend to round them off a little bit on these, but those are, you just got to be careful. That's the bottom line. So I got one coat of dope on. I'm going to mix up some filler. My own filler. It's basically dope and talcum powder. And I'll stop flapping my guns to get that mixed up. I said gums, not guns. Guns. Yeah, I gotta get some of that done before it gets too cold out. And now that there's a coat of dope on, I want to fill all these nasty war injuries from when I was trying to balance it. I cut that part out of my last video because the language wasn't very good. And of course my fingers and nails went skidding through it here in the bottom when I went to catch it. So I'll get those groaners fixed up and get the filling done. Hopefully I'll get her done in 2 passes. I'll be using the sanding rail to smooth that out. But sand the fuzz off, like I said, 400 sandpaper works good. Wet dry, that's all it is. And get at her. It's a brush I used. It's got black on it, so I would say it was 4.5, 5 years ago. I didn't clean it. I think I used this on the Ringmaster last when I did my beer fix. Nice thing about dope, no matter how old it is, I'll let that sit for a minute and it'll soften up. And a minute is about all that took. Nice. Old brushes. So if you do let your brush get hard, don't throw it away. It will be salvageable. Now, this stuff This is the big can. It's a 32 fluid ounce for you Americans. 0.946 liters for us Canadians and Europe and everywhere else. 17 bucks here in Canada, 18 bucks with tax. $5, hardware store. This works in cleaning brushes. It's lacquer thinner. You can use acetone. In the old days when we had two things, Frigo and nothing, and not 2 cents to rub together, used to thin the dope with lacquer thinner. It worked, but I gotta say, it seemed to affect how fuel proof the dope was. So having that experience, I'll pass that on. Best use the thinners that are recommended by the manufacturers of the dope. Brodaks says can't interchange their products with anybody else's. Well, I got a half A trainer that was pretty cheap, just a sheet wing and everything. It's a Brodak. I'm gonna mix the SIG and Brodak. Sounds like a video for the future. See how that works, especially with half A fuel, 35% nitro. That'll be a real good test for it. Okay. One of these little plastic mixing cups. They hold up to the nasties that dope and thinners seem to offer. If you get the little black plastic ones or things like that from your grocery store, you're gonna have a blob, plastic blob on your hands. So I'm gonna do, pour a little bit of clear in there. Baby powder, talc powder. Used to be able to get on this unscented stuff 102 years ago, but you can't seem to find it anymore. See there, it's pasty, borderline dry. Actually, I think, yeah, that's pretty good. It's still wet, but it's not. Yeah, that'll work good like that. Yeah. Alright, let's blob it on. All you do is spread it around the cracks and nicks and dings. Only downside to using this is it's going to be really white when it dries. Of course, this is the first time I ever used it with Brodak dope, but I don't see that being any different. This stuff sands really well. And there, my first batch of crevices filled, and that's all there is to that. So I'm going to spare you the gory details and smear the rest of the nicks and dings with this stuff. Some times past, she's hardened up pretty good. What I do initially, I'll go over and with my fingers take all these little loose lumps and bumps off. So if you don't, and you hit them with if they get underneath your sanding block, they'll roll and leave a nice groove in your balsa wood. When it comes to getting balsa finished up and smooth, it can be a bit of a pain. It's pretty easy to mark it. Once you get a few layers of dope, it's not so bad. But you don't want anything lying around. You want to make sure your wood's wiped nice and clean before you start sanding. So you get anything at all done it a few times. Just to do a couple of strokes sanding block, and you get a little, maybe a blob of glue, or even a blob of this filler or something underneath there. Next thing you know, you get this track going up and down your balsa. It makes for a bad mood and more work. There's where the lead out guide is. There's the bottom. Of course, it goes right through the top of the wing, so I put some fudge on there. Going with the grain, of course. And it smells like clear dope going on when you sand it. It smells like talcum powder. I'm not joking either, it does. It's just a hint of clear dope stinks to it. It smells better coming off than it does going on. And you don't want to over sand it. And as you can see, come off pretty nice. And the room smells better too. But it's pretty much, like I say, it's pure, almost pure white when you sand it off. And you don't want to go to town on it. And looks pretty good. Filled, just as strong, and it sands real easy. So I'll get old Lumpy here finished up. I showed earlier where I put the filler in here, where the flap glues onto the trailing edge of the wing, which in all reality I suppose is the trailing edge of the wing. These foam sander came in handy again. It's doesn't remove a lot of wood if you're careful. As the top of the curve of the wing comes down, it meets the flap, which is just a flat sheet of balsa. The foam actually takes on a bit of a curve and it'll follow that contour, and without taking off a bunch of wood, and it sanded that filler off beautifully. So I got a nice smooth joint there now. I did this one with the sanding block. Again, you kind of got to go out of the kind of a rolling angle. I finished it off with the foam and the sander. It worked great. Just use a fine one, that's all you need. Let's see, when I was doing my balancing thing, I cut it out of the video where I was balancing because I let some words fly, but I dropped it. Of course, like I said before, my nails grabbing it dug in, so got these little defects. I expected this from the control line guide, the wire guide. And just to let you know how this stuff will work out for you. That's the pushrod guide. Reinforcement I put in there, the hardwood, so that's all nice and flat now. And it's pretty much looking more and more like a paint job. Color dope instead of clear dope. Unless I stripe accordingly. Well, haven't given up on that thought yet. This wing, a little bit of fudge in the joint. Teeny bit for a neck on the leading edge. That's it. I mean, see, I missed a little spot there, which you always do. So I go over it again the second time. But it's turned out pretty nice. And I still got the other stuff to do. Yeah, she's getting there. This wing keep me busy for a bit. Got her all sanded up. Missed one spot. I always manage to miss one spot here on the side. Oh well, fudged it up. Going ahead with the second coat of butyrate. got the bottom of the wings done. Top of this wing's done. You might be able to see the difference in the color. I don't know, it's a little darker once you put the dope on it, but anyway. Something else you want to do after your dope sets up a bit, move those hinges, and after the dope dries, and give her another one. I want to keep that moving so it doesn't get all stiff. You can see that moves pretty good. And whenever you're working with model airplane dopes and some of these glues and stuff, the vapors are not very good for you, so you want to make sure you're wearing approved and proper protection so you're not breathing that stuff in. Right now I can't smell anything, so it should be good, but just make sure you're aware that you need something to keep those fumes from getting to you. Disaster. Waiting for a place to happen, and here's why. Just kind of turned around, I was looking at that, I said, what are the chances I'm going to flick the switch on that belt sander, and I wonder how far that plane's going to go. Yeah. Okay, I tried two different brushes. I tried this guy. It's the one I used to put the clear on. Naturally kind of gave a coarse brush streak, so I went with a finer camel hair brush, and turns out just a cheapie. The brushing this white primer on, I don't recommend it. You can, I guess, if you mess around with thinning it, but I'm thinking one or two coats sprayed on versus doing 4 or 5 brushed on coats, which is pretty much the same thing I ran into with SIG sanding sealer. I thinned it out and sprayed it. I had great results. I just did that little spot in the nose, and you can see underneath, maybe. I did it with the finer brush here. This stuff dries like right now, so before you can actually get a half decent spread on, it's worse than color dope. Those little marks there, that's from the brush shedding. So tomorrow, out in the garage, get the old Badger out, be spraying it on. Back at the primer I put on there yesterday, one of the reasons I put it only on the plywood is just I wasn't sure how it was going to turn out when it dried. It's been put on last night. It's 1 o'clock in the afternoon now. Put on about 10 o'clock last night, I guess. It's sandpaper clogging crap. That's all I can say about it. If I had put that on the balsa, and sanding is the amount of pressure I had to use to just to get that stuff to move was incredible. I tried 400 paper, plugged it up right away. This is not sure what it is. Feels like it's about 120 or so. And you can see that little line there, a little blob of paint. Well, this garbage, as I'm going to call it, that's Brodaks white primer. I wouldn't use this on an outhouse. It's I kind of expected it to be sort of like the SIG sanding sealer, but it's nothing. It goes on like latex paint. It sands like latex paint. And probably the worst pile of crap I've ever applied to a model airplane in my 38 years of building. As you can see, one of the reasons I used it on the plywood is something like that happens on balsa. You get that big lump packs in there like that, then it's going to leave these nice big drag marks up and down your balsa, or that nice birch plywood they used on the nose doesn't harm it. It's too hard. So Brodaks white primer, or step 2 as they like to call it, major fail. I might use it for plugging holes in the bathroom wall or something. That's all it's good for. It's garbage. So I'm going to try to sand that crap off the nose of the airplane, and I'm going to just go right to the silver like I used to do 102 years ago. Here's something that really sucks. I thought, you know, buying a little bottle like this, I'm finding out it's not worth a damn to you. It's one thing. But when I was looking for the silver, oh man, I got a whole can of this crap. So I'll see if I can find somebody that actually likes it and get rid of it. But I did find my can of silver, and I'm going to take this bad boy out to the garage, because I think spraying it in the house here would be one more tiny step towards a divorce, and don't much feel like going through another one of those. Actually, she's pretty good. She doesn't complain about the smell of this stuff.